For doing all of this, I can run to here, say save, and run it once again. There is a question, is it possible to record test cases in IE and then run in different browsers? Absolutely, and we will see that as we go forth. All right, so we are automated now, so I'm going to enter test user here. Please do remember that it's not a good idea to use tab on the keyboard when you're recording tests. So try and use the mouse as much as possible. Oh, so I was recording a wrong test. ABC123 is the password. And go and save it in login. There we go. Again, click on this. Go back into identifying the particular element and opening this blue bubble. All right, the last time around you saw me add a very quick verification saying text contains logout, and that's it. But there are a lot of things that are available for you to do from here. Now let's see some of them. So if I click on this blue bubble, I had quickly only used the quick tasks. Now quick tasks gives you access to some of the things that you can do, which is either include a wait step or an extract step. A wait step is the magic construct that I told you that you can use for the time that it is there, or for basically to use variable wait times till the task is done. Extract is when you just want to extract something and convert it into a variable for use in the test later. One of the very powerful features of the Studio is build verification. Now, build verification actually, when you've selected an element and you get into build verification, this is telling you that this is the element that's been identified, and what are the things that you can write for verification right from this UI. So you can use all of these verification steps from here. Now, it also gives you a very powerful DOM explorer. So whatever is there on the DOM, you can actually search for that element using the DOM Explorer. This is a quick way to search. For example, if I just wanted to search for what is the element that has something to do with PDF, it's told you, oh, I found something that needs to be done with PDF, and when I double click on it, it's directly taken me to the DOM element, and as you can see, this is the element that I want to work with, which is href element. It's a hyperlink. With the name export to PDF. Now, what I can also do here is go ahead and identify the exact thing that I want to use. Now, by right-clicking on this element, you can also say add to project elements, and this will add it to your element repository, which we'll see next. Now, this is done okay. Let's say this is all I wanted to record. So I will close this. Let me see if this seems to be really fine. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay. Now, quickly take a look at the element repository. If you notice, the element repository is arranged on a per page basis. So this was the first page which we went to, the home page where all these links were relevant, and then we moved into page 2, which was relation 0, and there was this logout link element as well. The way this element has been identified is visible from here. You can see what was the find logic that was applied, which is ID should be equal to logout underscore link, and tag name should be exactly A, which is a hyperlink. That's the identification logic that Test Studio is using to identify this element, and in fact you can change this logic as well. So all right, why don't we do a quick run of this project, of this Test Studio project, and not run it in IE, but how about running it in Chrome? I have a lot of Chrome windows open, but let's try and run it in Chrome as well. It opened in, there's my Test Studio runner. That's Chrome, which was not calibrated, so if something goes wrong, don't worry about it. Give it a second as this just gets done. Now, as the automation is running, it is doing all these things, and just give it a second. It is going to wait for something to happen there. All right. Okay, as you can see, what actually happened was the test failed, but that's expected, and I will just get into that. How about we take a look at the test failure itself? How about I go and click on this in this cross, which is where the step failed. I can see what happened here, which is unable to locate element and attempting to find HTML element using find logic. It was not able to find this logout link, but it was there, wasn't it? Let's see if it was there or not. Images, this is at the time of failure. This is what it was supposed to be. There is the page DOM at the time that this was happening. And then we can also resolve failure by trying to change the identification logic. Currently, if you notice, the way we were doing it is by saying ID is exactly logout link and tag name is exactly A. So, well, you can change that logic, and this is, you can nest it, you can add more, and things like those. So what I'm going to do right now is try and submit this bug, because this is something that a tester has found, and I want to send it back into our Team Pulse, which is our project management system. So for now, this is not set up. What I'm going to be doing is just go here and say configure the connection. Seems right, seems right. I can just say connect. What is the project? I can say CRM project. What is the severity? I'm going to set it as medium for everything, and status is obviously not done. Now here, Team Pulse is active. I'm just going to mark it as default, say save. And the bug here, you can click on send to Team Pulse server, and I can click on submit. So what this is actually doing is it's sending it to Team Pulse, and here is the window which tells me that bug 2019 has been submitted to Team Pulse server successfully. Great. Now the project manager also knows that we have found a bug. Now, as we are looking through it, and suddenly a developer walks up to you and says, hey, you know what, seems like you've given me some bug, but basically what you needed to do, the way that the script was written or the login is written, is that when you actually type in the password, we use JavaScript to only then enable the login button. Till that time, login button is not enabled. I also have a question which asks me, can we mask the password in the test steps? Of course you can. I've just clicked on this step, and on the right you can see properties for step 4. You can simply say encrypt and his password, and there it's gone. Well, that's just for cosmetic purposes, but it's there. So yeah, you can mask it. So the point coming back to when we said that the tester said that, or the developer said that when there is a key press, then is when we actually activate the login or the login button. Well, you say, so what do I do? Do I write some more script there, or do something so as to enable the login script, or what? Because this is driven by JavaScript now. So, well, Test Studio gives you the power. Instead of, so whenever the test is run, it's actually run in a headless way. But what we give you the opportunity is of actually doing it physically in the browser, and we call this simulate real typing or simulate real clicking. Now, in this case, we are going to be using simulate real typing. If you notice, there are other sections which talk about simulate real click and things like those. At this time, I have just changed one small feature, which is simulate real typing. Let's say you did not know how to do this as well. You were not aware of what the problem is. Let's try and see how you can diagnose this problem as well. Now there is. If you notice currently where my mouse is, it says toggle breakpoint. So how about we set up a breakpoint here and run the test again. Now I'm going to be using IE as I said because it's just configured better. But you saw how the test can be run. In fact, you can configure the test to be run on multiple browsers using test lists. We'll take a look at that as well. Now, if you notice, it has run till about here. And if you notice the debug and the window at the bottom of the screen, with this one at the bottom, it says breakpoint hit. If you notice where my mouse is right now, the cursor, it says breakpoint hit. Obviously, at this time, it is waiting for this particular step to be executed. Now, if you press this button, execute one step at a time, I'm just going to click this. Now it was filled in. Now, ideally at this time, you would expect the login button to come alive. but it did not. And that's where you have identified the problem. That's how you actually go ahead and debug different things. Well, let me go ahead and just close this test. Let's say we don't want to be executing this anymore, or just finish this right here. So we identified that there was something wrong. We told the developer told us, well, you know, you need to be using some JavaScript. I do this. I use simulate real typing, and that's all I need to do. And then what I do is I run the test again. Well, before I do that, I may want to clear the breakpoint. Well, how about just leaving the breakpoint there as well, and just run this test. Okay, run it, run it, run it, run it, and there we go. Here we come in. It is there again. Breakpoint is hit. Let's try and do this again. Execute one step at a time. And as you saw, there was some real typing going on there. Earlier, it was just in one shot because this was DOM stuffed through the headless browser. Now you can see that as I have typed it in, the login button has come alive. And then I continue, and then beautifully everything just works. It's locating the element after the login, and hopefully everything would be fine. All right, so you now know how this runs, how you basically even can diagnose how if your tests are not running. It's time actually to take a look at, I'll just close it. All right, it's now basically time to look at what are these other various things that you're seeing at the top. We have some ground to cover as well, so I'll move a little faster. You can actually take a look at this storyboard, which is the steps that you've taken to author the test. This is an export button, and talked about documentation, right? That's one of the key things that we have to also spend time on, necessary evil. Well, if you're using automation, well, we give you an opportunity to also go in and author these documentation right out of the box. So if you can see, it's already done. It says steps, navigate, click, everything available to you in HTML format, so that you can edit simply in anything that you wanted to. If you want to open it in Word and edit this out, this is also possible. All right. So where is my test studio? Back here. All right. So that was storyboard. Local data. When we start looking at test, which is data-driven test, we'll take a look at that. The other thing is debugger option. So this is basically when do you want to pause, when it finds an error, or you don't want to wait ever on things like those. Also, there are default setups that you can do, which is timeouts, and when do you want the test to run, or what is the client or frame ready timeout. In fact, this is a drop down that you can also use to control what is the time difference between each of the individual steps. So currently we are at the minimum 400 milliseconds, and it will run at the speed of 400 milliseconds as well. There are more. Let's take a look at these things. These is where it says under the ribbon called add. These are things that you can add into your test, which is add a comment, script test, or test as a step. You can add all of these things, manual step, inspection point, clear cookies, custom annotation, execution delay. So what we've just seen, how about we go back into this, go into correct login, and go back into steps. And how about at this time we have discovered this particular fact, right, that you need the JavaScript to run. How about we want to help the next tester who comes on the way and tell him that, you know, there is something that is going on. So what you can simply do is add an annotation and tell the next tester to tell him that, well, login button is enabled using JavaScript key press, so that this guy knows that if they're going to be editing anything, this is something that is going to help them. So JavaScript. All right. Now, this is simply a custom annotation I have added, but there are more things you can add. There's execution delay, the favorite of most of people. I say avoid it. Use the wait step. Desktop capture, browser capture. This will just capture the images for a specific step. Clear cookies if you want to. There is logical if then else, while loops simply. and also the ability to handle all these dialogues: alert, confirm, log on, upload, download, and all of those. In fact, you can derive from the basic classes and handle more dialogues if you have a custom dialogue that does not fit in any of these categories. So you can also do it through the coding step as well. Well, this is pretty much what you would do at this time. Let's go back to the project. How about we do something else? How about we use this correct login test and let's say we just executed this and we realized this just executed fine. So how about we now say this has passed? Now, by doing this, what changes happened in Team Pulse? Let's take a look. Because we said that we are going to author our test cases in here, and let's see what happens to test cases in Team Pulse at this time. So we've just changed the credential or changed the status of this test case, the first test case. I'm just going to refresh this because this was not refreshed; it was still there from the beginning. Okay. As you can see, it is automatically indicated to pass. This is what people would know if they ran their test, and the project managers will know, okay, the test has passed as well. But we also talked about passing in the bugs. We passed in actually a bug. Where is that bug? Let's try and identify that bug. Well, wasn't it this, which is 2019? So let's take a look at what the bug contained. You can see the steps, the same things, the same description that we read, and all the other things that we put in are actually available in this file here. And this is an attachment that has been added. All the images and every other information that you saw there is available here. At this time, the product owner or the project manager is free to assign this to anybody. He can mark it as a blocking bug. Of course, if this was there, you could. It's a login test. You definitely want to mark it as blocking, and then you can assign it to anybody else from the team and things like those. So this is how Team Pulse actually works with Test Studio. And also there is this triage. So in case there is a triage meeting, this is what you can do. And anything that you want to change, you can say this is priority 1, get it fixed now. You can also change all of those things. And then once this is resolved, you can also mark it as, well, in progress, deferred, deleted, or anything else that is needed to be done. Okay, so this is how Team Pulse allows you to work. Well, this is not a session on Team Pulse, so we'll kind of move ahead. How about we do something else? If you noticed, let's go back to that, and this time we will not run into automation because I want to show you something else as well. How about I'm in the application, I'm not automating, I'm just kind of browsing around, maybe trying to do some exploratory testing. I use this window and I say I am right here, and as I'm doing this, I just want to identify high value test cases. So I'm just browsing around and seeing what can be done in addition. So I'm at this step, I'm looking at this CRM system, and I see that there is this export to PDF button. This seems something that's very interesting. I click this button. Oh, well, this is something which is saving a file to my file system. I think this is a high value item, and I go and say, okay, we need this test as well. So I'm going to cancel this out, and I'm not going to add this in Team Pulse again because, as I said, you've seen how Team Pulse works. But let's say the product owner agrees that this is something that we need to automate as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new test, and I'm going to call it, let's say, verify correct file download. Okay, so you want to verify the file actually gets downloaded. Now, verify correct file download. Now I'm here. Now the first thing, obviously, my window is already there. I'm right here. What I can do is, instead of running to here or doing something else or re-recording or doing everything else, I can actually go into record and use this menu which is attached to, and since it is already identified a running window, you can just say connect to that window at that state. Now it is connecting to the recorder at the bottom, as you can see, and now this running window is also automated. Now what I want to be doing is I want to say export to PDF. Great. As you notice, it also got recorded there. Now I'm going to say save. So I just want to file and save. Save as Windows open here. I go back and I want to save it in this test demo as well. So I'm going to save this as contacts. Let's say I'm just going to save it as contacts demo PDF and click on save. All right, good. Now I'm going to close this window. This is what I wanted to automate, right? Close. One best practice though is before you click on anything, just make sure that it is visible. I didn't do that here, but this is something of a best practice that I want to tell you. Before you click on something, make sure, I've seen a lot of tests fail purely because nobody put in a verification to see that it's visible. If you're going to be clicking on something, verify that it is visible first and then click on it. I'm not going to do it in this demo. It's not production ready or anything, but that's something that you want to be keeping in mind. Now, if you notice, this is a download path that I just used, but I don't want to use this download path. The download path that I want to use is on C test demo. So what I can simply do is go here and say C test demo. All right, great. Now the next problem here is, hey, I wanted to do this login first, right? You can't get to this window till you've actually completed your login. Now here is how Test Studio supports you to do composable tests. Now we wrote the login already, right? So what you can do is use this little icon here, which is called test as step. And by clicking on this window, it's telling you what are the tests that are already recorded. So this is a test that is already recorded. I can say select, and it's added in here. But this should be the first thing, so I will move this as the first. So now what is happening here is, first the login will be executed, then this PDF will be clicked, and then the file will be downloaded here. Now it's in C test demo folder. So what I'm going to be doing is bringing that folder up, which is right here, so that you can see what is going on. I can then click on start, save, let it run using IE, and let's see what happens. The window should just be coming up. All right, let's see what happens. Now, in case you have time, in case you have any question, please feel free to put them in as you enjoy the replay going on there. Just let me know if there is any question that you have in the all right, so there is there is something that already exists. All right, let's just say yes to it. Okay, this completed. Now this was important. Why was it important? Because you noticed that the test needs to be in a clean state at this time, which means you need to be cleaning the folder first, which is basically you want to do a test setup. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say add a new coded step and say okay. So a new coded step got added. Just I'll kind of go up and say edit custom description. I'm just going to call it test setup. So I want to set up this test. The way I want to set up this test is to make sure that whatever is, if there is a file by that name, it is cleaned or it's deleted from that folder. All right, this particular location. I'm going to go back into test and notice there is this section where I can write my code. So the code that I'm going to write is actually going to be very simple. I'm going to declare a string and I'm going to say download file path. Give me a second. This will not be too long. So this is my file path. I want to be sure, and I'm using C# here, okay? If system.io.file.exists, if the file exists, which is the string, which is download file path. If you notice, I'm using IntelliSense. If the file exists, what I want to be doing is system.io and full IntelliSense available still file.delete. All right, here is the delete. Delete which file? This file. But hey, I had it stored in the string, so I can just say download file path. All right. This works. So this is my test setup. Now what is going to happen is each time the test is run, it's first going to detect if it exists, and then it's going to be, it's running it here. So let's refresh this. If you can see the file is right here. How about I set a breakpoint here so that you can see if this actually did clear the folder as well. So I'll say save, let it run, say Internet Explorer, run, and the automation window should come up. Great, it is logging in, and as you can see, this file's right here in the folder, and it is hit the breakpoint now. If you notice, let me just refresh this. That file is gone, so our test is correctly set up. All right. Well, great. Let it run again. Let it complete. This should just pass with everything. Now you won't find that thing come up. Contacts demo and done. Well, great. We now know the test runs successfully, but we also want to verify that the file actually got downloaded. Now go back here at another coded step. I will just bring it down, down, down. Okay. Now verify the coded step. Now in this coded step, I'm just going to say verify, all right, file exists. Right. Now in this step, I'm just trying to make sure that whatever we downloaded actually exists. To do that, we say assert dot, maybe say is true. What am I asserting? The condition is system system.io.file.exists. I am just using the same file path. I can just put in the string again. Well, I just don't want to do this right now, but there is also a little caveat there. Test demo, what was the file name? contactsdemo.pdf. There is a way you can use the same variable again. All right, let's save this and let's try this again. All right, so there is says compilation failed. There is some error. If you notice, view log will tell you that there is something expected, which is we didn't write the code properly. What was not written properly? So we can say, oh, closing braces expected of some nature. Yep, right here. Okay, let's run it again. Save, use IE, run. If you notice, it will first do the test setup, so it's clean. It will execute this test. Go in here, export to PDF. All right, save as, contacts demo. Great, verifying if the file exists and closing, and all of it passed. So you know how you can run the test. Now what we've just done now is just execute the login. But let's go back to the project, and this is the login, right? What we are now going to be doing is converting this test into how about a load test? Well, actually, I can actually first do a performance test on the same thing. Now, performance test is very easy. You can just go in here, get started, make sure you have an automated web test open. Let's see if we do have a test open, which is, this is the full test. I don't want to use that test. I want to simply use this test, which is a correct login. And just go ahead and choose, this is where the results will be saved. If you actually wanted to gather performance data with other machines than apart from this machine, you can actually add those machines as well. Since we are not going to be doing that, I will just not do that, and I will just say run. So what it's going to be doing is gathering the performance. The way we define it is a single user browsing on a website and giving you the details about the individual page. So this will execute and will give you the performance data. Now, all right, while it is running, I am going to be asking you again if there is any other question that you have for me at this time. I think you get the picture of how this is done. I will just cancel this test. It's taking a little longer. Um, one thing that I have not shown you till about now is how to do data-driven tests. How about we get doing that very quickly? Now, what I want to be doing is I'm going to be data driving this test to give in the right credentials and the wrong credentials. So I can use this. I can just go in this. I have moved into the project and I'm going to add a data source. So you can add these kinds of data sources. You can add a database or an XML file or a CSV file or an Excel file as a data source. Now, if I go back into my login or the CTest demo page, I have an Excel file already here, which is book1.xls. Hopefully, this will have some credentials put in. It's just opening up in my other window. Hopefully, you can see it now. I went back into the project window.
Yeah, please.
Okay, I added a new data source. Can you see now? I can add a new data source in the Excel. I can choose whatever data source I wanted to. For example, I can go into Excel file. That's what I did. And I chose the same Excel file. Or you can choose a database if you want that, or an XML file or a CSV file. Those are the type of data sources we support. Now, after you've added that, that will get added to the project as a data source. And to one project, we can actually add different data sources. This is just one data source of nature Excel that's been added to the project. All right. Now the next step is identify the particular project where you want to go in, and then click on bind test. This test will allow you, this bind test allows you to bind a data source to a particular test script. So I'm here and I'm just selecting the data source. It will let you select the table and the data is then displayed here. If this was some other data source, for example, a database, you also have an option of specifying the T-SQL statement there as well. Since this is of the nature Excel, this is what we display, and then we say bind. So this is already bound, so this is how it is. You will notice this little database kind of a button that comes up, or an icon that comes up along with the test. This indicates that this test is data bound at this time. You can go in and select the particular step which you want to data bind. I'm on that step, and on the right hand side for properties, you can click on binding. Now the moment you click on binding, this little window comes up. You click on the specific binding that you want to use, which is the column name. The first column name is username, and then click on set. Now the way this is done then is you will see in the step it is now converted to data-driven username, and similarly I had done it for password as well. So that's what was again, the binding is done as well. You can say set. Now this is how you bind a test to a particular data source. So now that the test is bound, well, you can actually run the test as well. Now here are some of the considerations as you're binding the test. You notice, or the way the test works. Let me actually draw it out for you, which makes it simple to understand. Just one second. I'm going to bring in a new window. I'm going to bring in a new window, which is actually going to be a simple surface for me to okay, so okay, I cannot draw. So what I'm basically what happens here is each time you data bind the test is repeated for the same number of times that the rows exist. So the test will be run as many number of times with picking up each row from the data source. Now we have also used this step, if you notice, or this test in another step, which is correct file download. Now what does it do in this case? Because now this is a part of another test. Now in this case, the test will execute as many number of times as is, and since this is a part of a bigger test, that test will only run that many number of times, which is one time, and since this is a part of that test, it will continue to do a sub loop within it, which is this test will run only once, but the data source will go ahead and give data from each row, and this step will be executed those many number of times. There is also a possibility of using the data from a child or a parent. So if I wanted to use the data from this data source or the data source bound to this project, I can also use it in the parent data test there is inherit data source feature, and then I can continue to use that in here as well. So that is for another time, but that's how you can actually go ahead and work on this as well. So hopefully this has given you a quick view into how you can simply data bind the test. I see that there are one or two more questions, but the final thing that I wanted to show you is this, which is a load test. So I can go into let's actually record a simple web test, which is let's call it browse to Yahoo, if nothing else. Create. I'm just going to record one step in here, which is I'm just going to let us browse to yahoo.com. Okay. Now the reason why I'm just recording it is simple. Hey, okay, let me even not do this. Okay, forget this. I can use a test that is already here, which is I'm going to delete this test. Yep. And I'm going to go back into this test. And I'm going to convert this test into a load test. So this is a simple login. What we're going to be doing is we're trying to see if 50 people try and do a login, what happens to the performance of the page. To do that, I'll go back into the project, say add a new test, and I will say add a new load test and say CRM login load test. All right, we're trying to be using maybe 30 users, simultaneous users. So I'm going to say create. Now this test is there. I am going to go in there. All right. So this is the load test window that you will get. Here you can record various scenarios. Various scenarios meaning thereby, let's say some users you want to be doing, let's say login. Some people you just want to be browsing on the website or something else. So those are the user scenarios in our terminology called as user profiles. So the first thing I will do is capture a user profile. And the way I'm going to be capturing a user profile is, let's say, capture from existing web test. So this was a web test that we had. We're going to be choosing a browser. And what it's going to be doing is it's going to execute this test and record the test, all the steps that are there. And then go ahead. Oh, sorry, this should pass. So that's one requirement for our load test. That's why it failed. Hold on. I will go back in here. I will, how about I just, okay, so there is a feature for dynamic targets as well, but let's not get there for now. I will just go in here. I will probably just delete this. Okay, go back into the project. I'm just going to, sorry, what was the project? Let's say you wanted to remove the data binding. Well, that's the quick way of removing the data binding. I can go in here, test user ABC123 is the password. So yeah, all right, this should just work. Well, as I said, the only requirement that we have for load test is your test actually pass. So I will say capture from existing web test, correct login. We're trying to do some login. Okay, it's executing. It's executing. Well, what you saw about dynamic target, that's the way you basically associate different sessions in a web session. So that's what's going on. Give it one more second, and well, I'm not going to be using any dynamic targets for this time, but this is what was recorded, which is this, and this. So I'm going to say, well, save. Okay. Now I want to use, so this is a bunch of people who are actually going to be coming in and log into Telerik CRM system. Let's say another set of users, I just want to say they've just arrived there. They're not doing anything. So I'm going to say capture a new session on the browser. Just open this up quickly. It's what I'm going to be doing here is typing this, which is the same window. As you notice, it is saying capturing Internet Explorer traffic to requests captured. Now this is all I want to be doing. Let's say people just are browsing here. This is another set of people who are doing things. So you can imagine this is how it would work. Stop recording. These are the two capture traffic we got here. We call it save. We call it save. Now this is the workload that we have, which is we want to configure. Let's say 50% of users are actually trying to log in, and another 50% of users are only going to be just browsing. Okay, they're just going to be hitting the page. They're not going to be doing anything. Now, as you're setting this up, there are a few more things you can do, which is this, which is delay connections, or you can evenly balance the workload, which is what we've done right now. Now, other things before you run the test is this, which is start test with one user, and we said test it with, let's say, 30 users, right? So it will ramp up in 1 minute and run the test, since we do not have too much time, for just 2 minutes. Well, this should be pretty much okay, and then I say run. So the moment I say run, this new window comes up and it tells me that review your test and configure your sampling rate and everything, which is, take a look at this. When do you want to sample? 10 seconds is fine by me. You can use all these sampling times. And if you have a goal, for example, let's say our goal was that the page average response time should be less than 3 seconds. So 3 seconds is the golden benchmark that people use. So I'm just going to say 3,000 milliseconds, just as a custom goal. Now, since it's ramping up, I can just say, maybe forget checking this for 30 seconds and then continue to use it. And then I can say run this test. All right. So the tests will get sent to the scheduler, and the test agents on my machine will keep running. Now, let me again take a look while the test continues to run. Let me go back into the questions, and if I can see any. There is a question on, can we write customized code instead of record and playback? I showed you how to write the coded steps, and of course you can completely not use record and playback and completely only write coded steps if you wanted to. But I don't see why you would want to when Test Studio is giving you the capabilities. And I'll also show you, if you wanted to convert a step into a coded step, how to do that so that you can modify it as much as you wanted. Okay, let me see if there is any other. So Amit says, what do I have to do if I need the script to take one row at a time for each cycle of execution? Well, I told you that that's the default behavior of the data-bound test, which is it picks up one row at a time for the particular test. Now, I'm not sure if that's the scenario, but in case that is, it's okay. If it is not, we can actually take this later as well. Amit, you know I'll also leave you with my details so that you can actually reach to me with your specific questions. Sorry, because we are already 20 minutes off the schedule, so I'm trying to kind of hurry this up. Okay, as you can see, as the test is running, I'm getting the data as the test is running. So it's telling me that the current average response time is 2,000 milliseconds. So that's good. Our response time was about 3,000. That was the limit. But it's running, and it's ramped up to 30 current virtual users. You can see as the test is running what's going on. This is our throughput, current responses received per second. You can also look at it in the graph mode and see average response time, current virtual users, and responses received. Well, that's the graph, and you can see it will keep updating as we go forth. Okay, it's almost, I think, finished. and that gives you a load profile as well. So if I go back in here, this was run for 2 minutes, so you can do your soak tests for as long as you want. And in this, you can see it was average response time being 2,000 milliseconds. So, well, you specified actually, oh, so the goal was failed because the value did reach about 7,000 at one time. Now in the dashboard, that was the current or the at the time it ended. But if you notice, if I go in here, I have the response times mentioned in red. If you notice here, it's about 6,000. It was peaking at about 22 current virtual users, and then it also peaked at about 30 for 6458. So that's the set of that's the behavior that I'm getting. It's not very I would say it's not very confidence inspiring. There are these peaks, so we need to investigate and pass it back to developers saying, well, our targets are not being met. Of course, if you're just looking at average, you can use this as well. Now, in case you wanted to export all of this data or get page-specific matrix, you can actually go in here and see what was the page URL and what was the average response time in here. Of course, you would want to export the results in here, and let's see, exporting, and this is the entire test result as well. A lot of data for you to chew on if you wanted to just see what was happening every 5 seconds of the test. All of that data is right here. Average response time, average time to first byte, byte received, byte sent, completed virtual users, created virtual users, all of that data is here. Now, I was using only one machine to do this test. You can actually configure this to run on multiple machines. We don't have time to show you that, but I hope you get the message that you can do that as well. All this is included in your Test Studio Ultimate SKU. I also want to leave you with another important thing, because there seems to be more interest in coded steps. We have a full help section on coded steps in our documentation. This is the documentation. It gives you a very quick way of showing you how to do coded steps. If you see write tests in code, you can see that. All right. So you can completely look at that. So there was a question, if I only wanted to write tests in coded step, how about I go in there, go in here, add a new test, add a new web test, and say browse to Yahoo, go in there, click in here, and instead of recording anything, I can just say script step. So here is the step. How about I do this? Manager.launch. Sorry, this is for, as you can see, this is completely intelligence driven. I can then say manager.activebrowser.navigate to, all right, to what? Yahoo.com, and it tells me bool use decoded URL. Yes, I do. True, and this is it. All right. So if you notice, I didn't write anything. I just wrote browse to this. Okay, so it's executing. Ideally, it should take me to yahoo.com. All right, there you go. That's how yahoo.com is. It'll just come up. All right, I think you get the picture. I'm just going to stop the test. I'm going to go back to the project. I'm going to pick up another test, which is this one, the correct login test. Now I wanted to convert this step into code. I can simply say customize step in code. I right-clicked on it, and this is the button. Now remember, once you have converted it into a coded step, you can't convert it back. So I have converted it, and as you can see, it's using almost the same thing that I said, which is navigate to and true. So this is pretty much how you're going to be authoring your tests if you only want to use coded steps. If you're going to be using coded steps, another interesting thing you want to be looking at is view entire code behind file. So all of this actually is converted into a code behind file, and that is this file. So take a look at this one, which is correct login in Telerik CRM coded step. Coded step. The function is named as correct login in this, and that is precisely the step that you saw. So if you want to modify this, you can, and in this way you will be able to identify or write your coded steps as well. Another interesting thing, if you're going to be interested in doing coded steps, is going to be extraction of variables. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to go say run to here. All right, let's say next. I'm going to go back into IE. It's going to launch the new browser. You can actually do browser settings also. There is a full settings class that you can use. You can launch different browsers from the code as well, and work this out. So as it's waiting for yahoo.com, I wanted to show you extraction of various things. So basically you can extract any value from a web page and then use that value, basically extract that value into a variable and use that variable anywhere else you want it to be in. So this is yahoo.com opening up, the window getting instrumented, and I can use this. Now let's say I want to verify that this was actually mail. Now one is you can do quick steps, and in quick steps there is this extract, right? So you can say extract text contains mail. Now the moment I've said extract, what is done is at the back you can see extract text content at the back, right? Now I'm going to close this, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to come here. All right, so it says close pop-up window. I'm just going to close this, extract text content. Now here you can change the variable name, which is converted into something more useful. So let's call it the mail string. Okay. Now if you wanted to use this step anywhere else, this would actually convert this into a variable, and anywhere you want to use this variable, let's say in the coded step, what you can simply do is use the get extracted variable or get extracted value function and give them this variable to get the value of this variable. So this is the way you can go ahead. The final thing, so I hope this has given you just some basic overview of how tests can be written. If you want to use coded steps, we also have provision for test lists, which is you can record the tests and run them in parallel as well. So for example, I'm just going to pick up, so these are all the tests that we have. I'm just going to, let's say so login test, and I'm going to pick up this correct login. I'm going to move this here. So it's asking me what is the type of test this is. So this is simply an automated test. I will say okay. Well, and you can also say edit settings. So as you're going to say edit settings, it's going to give you some interesting things here. So for example, what do you want to do in terms of when things are moving around, simulated mouse speed, all of those things that you want to run for this test list. You can run the list. Since this only has one test, it should just take the same time. You can also not only run this test, but you can also schedule these tests to be run at another time. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to pick this test and say schedule test list. So as I'm going to be scheduling this test list, it is asking me when, how often, and things like those. So you can configure it, let's say not recurring, select the time, find, let's say next, and you can do distribution and things like those. Again, for if you want to distribute it on other machines, you can simply use the Test Studio runtime. They basically need the Test Studio runtime to be available there as well. There is a concept of dynamic test lists. Dynamic test lists are test lists that are composed each time the test list is run based on various properties. So the properties are based, or those properties are rules based. So you can say, for example, an owner is Abhishek, so all tests owned by Abhishek should be run. All priority 1 tests should be run, or if you want to define any other custom property 1 or 2 or 3, those can also be configured as well. Now, if you notice, these properties, the owner and everything, are available in the definition of the project itself. So you can go in here and configure them as well. Let's take a look at the results. So it says login test run at this time. All right, so 0 tests passed out of total, 1 executed, whatever it is, and the result. In case, again, you wanted to send the results over, it is possible. Submit bug, view selected test log, and open test steps. So you can do all that. It'll tell you what went wrong. I mean, it canceled out before even we went in. So, okay. This is how you can export all your tests. You can export this into Word, Excel, and anything else. This is the way, basically, how you can schedule your tests, you can run those tests, and this is where you can see the bunch of runs that have happened. So this is how you can also configure the runs and view the results. All right, so this is pretty much the length and breadth of Test Studio. I'm pretty sure there are some things that I have missed out. For example, if you wanted to schedule this, and get the status, you can also do this. There is connection to TFS that you can establish and work very closely with TFS. If you are working with QC, you can integrate there as well. If you have a QC server, you can do that. And of course, we've seen these settings. Remember, I told you if you're doing coded steps, you can actually add any other framework. So the way that you're going to add any other framework is going to be through script options and add an assembly here, add a reference, and then that assembly reference is added in here as well. All right. That is pretty much all I had to talk about. Hopefully this was useful. I know we went way over time.